Oh, hello, yeah. Well, trundling through into September, aren't we? I suppose, yes. That's odd. It's quite noisy out there. It sounds quite chaotic. Yes, might come back to that in a second. Anyway, perambulating through, following on from yesterday, I thought I had to smile at, everyone's favourite, very, very British citizen, Jake Simmons, who, posted this up yesterday, about the way that Hamas will just execute people they don't like. Apparently, it's just appalling. There's no trial or anything. Yes, extraordinary how anybody could fail to see these butchers for what they are. Even more extraordinary that they have so many brainwashings supporting them, either tacitly or overtly. Yes, it would be awful, that wouldn't it? Imagine if a state like the British state, for example, which of course Jake is heavily invested in, was to do such a thing. But of course we wouldn't. Not here, not us as a democratic state. We wouldn't do that, would we? No. Anyway, yes, Jake was also complaining yesterday about the fact that the demo that he went on in support of another state, which he's not very invested in, definitely because he wouldn't do that, although there were a large number of flags, which weren't British flags around, which I guess is extremely patriotic, provided they're Welsh ones or, the ones you see here, of course they are. Yes, he was complaining that there wasn't enough media coverage of it, and having had a cursory glance at all of the major media outlets that did cover it, I'm not really quite sure what he's going on about. Maybe in his daily articles in the Daily Telegraph he'd care to explain how the fact that he just doesn't get enough media exposure. Like quite a few of them. Anyway, on to the chaotic noise that isn't out there. Yes, you may have noticed, possibly, that there was just a few bits and bobs about the latest tube strike in the media yesterday, and it falls upon the inevitable tropes in that any weather or indeed any strike related to travel is automatically chaotic. So this is from the Telegraph. Commuter chaos shuts down as London tube strike shuts down service. Severe disruption for Londoners after RMT walkout leaves Underground with little to no trains. Yes, which is yes, there are very few trains, so as you can see the chaotic scenes here of people getting onto a bus, you'd never get chaotic scenes like that outside of a strike, would you? And all of the usual commentators came down with the usual things that they usually have to say. Here's Lord Young's boy, Lord Young, Toby Young. Yeah, London is facing pure carnage. Yeah, there it is again. Look at it, pure carnage. Now, whenever you think of pure carnage, that's exactly the scene, isn't it? People queuing orderly for a bus. It's pure carnage. Oh dear God. Yes. Today, as striking tube drivers on £72,000 a year bring the capital to a standstill, demanding more money, a 4-day week, and a 75% discounts on train journeys nationwide. Yeah, as well as a fast getaway car. You know, something good like a Porsche. Yeah. Maybe not that last thing, but it does remind you of the hyperbole you do get in American films, don't you? Yes. You'll notice the references there to a very small number of people that earn £72,000 a year. It's not quite maybe what it's after. Still, Lord Young's boy is on the side of, all of those people, isn't he? The ordinary people. Ordinary people affected by strikes, inevitably. We had Andrew Pierce here. Yeah. A number of metro lines in Paris, the home of militant unions, are driverless. After yet another damaging strike by RMT union, isn't the time we went driverless in the UK, to which certain gits have questioned this. Can you name one strike you've ever supported? How much should drivers be paid? Would you be happy to be paid that? Yes, I don't understand. Some of these people are just lefties that do things like that, aren't they? Yeah. We had the inevitable gorgeous and pouting Sophie. Brits work 35 hours or more. Most Brits do not have gold-plated pensions. Most Brits earn less than 50k, yet troop drivers are striking because they want to do less work for more pay. There's only one word to describe that: greed. Yes, indeed, it is very greedy, isn't it? I would have thought personally it was aspirational, and it got me thinking, because of course, the way that we are presented with all of these things is the inevitable way that the press will describe any strike as bad. Andrew Pierce, as far as I know, along with lots of other similar commentators like the rest of the crew at GB News and Talk TV, never support any strike ever. Ever, 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 ever. Because, of course, they are paid to do so. Just sort of, again, just got to really labour this. Let's have a look at this from the Daily Mail. Tube strikes unleash pure carnage on London. Yeah, there you go again. Queues of people, pure carnage. Commuter fury as drivers on up to 72k. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Walkout and pay rail, shutting the underground and bringing the capital to a standstill, which is of course the way that it's always presented. We never get to hear from the unions themselves. So I'm going to be a bit of a devil, and I'm going to suggest that we actually read this from the RMT, because they're replying to the gorgeous and pouting Rupert Lowe MP, who said these tube drivers are taking the rip now. Yes, indeed, because of course Rupert would never support strikers. They're all bad, always, all the time. Rather like your opinions, our tube network is Victorian, Rupert. Furthermore, it's not just tube drivers taking action on fatigue, but all grades. With 2,000, here's the key bit, with 2,000 fewer tube staff post-COVID, our members are working more extreme shifts to deliver the 5 million daily passenger journeys. Yes, indeed. And perhaps that is the rub, one might say, just to use a particularly old-fashioned Rupert Lowe style phrase. But you see, what's going on here is that, yes, people are going on strike, which is mildly inconvenient for a few days. But why should ordinary people, stout, British, hard-working, ordinary, stout, British, patriotic, hard-working people who would otherwise, have plenty of time at the weekend to go around, protesting outside migrant hotels and putting up flags, why should they have to put up with doing more work for the same amount of pay? Because Rupert and Toby and the rest of them won't do that, will they? Yeah, they expect to be paid a vast amount of money, vastly more indeed than your average, mostly paid, highest paid tube driver, to do the work that they do, which is nothing like the level of responsibility, although it does have a certain high level of irresponsibility, one might say. And I don't know, it would be nice if people just sort of said, as I think they should do, exactly how poor do you want people to be? Because I think we need to measure progress in more than just how poor people are. Call me a fool like that, but growing up, being the boomer that I am, we kind of measured things in terms of people working less and having better lives, not people working more and having worse lives. But of course, that's wrong, isn't it? Because, you mustn't tax aspiration, because, people want and expect better lives, and they want to work more for their better lives, unless they actually are people that want better lives, in which case they need to be, told that they're going to be fired or taught a lesson or get the police in. Yes. The inherent contradiction is basically laughable, and it would be nice if more people, once again in the media, actually took those kind of messages on. Unfortunately, of course, our regular left-wingers, in inverted commas, won't do that, because we have a Labour Party that is deeply wedded to the notion that, well, they don't really like left-wingers either, or indeed working people as well. All of the latest machinations about what's going on in the front bench as to who's going to be Deputy Prime Minister, it really doesn't matter, because the last thing that they're going to do is appoint people that actually are on the side of ordinary people. Yes, I know, dreadful, aren't I? Imagine being a lefty and not supporting the Labour Party. Imagine being a lefty and demanding more. Well, yeah, that's par for the course, isn't it? I'm just greedy. Whereas, of course, somebody who's in the banking business, or maybe the Thames Water business, who manages to, meet certain production targets of flushing effluents into the river, just deserves more pay, just deserves it to spend more time, on the golf course. Because of course they do, because that's the aspirational society we must live in. We being the group of people that aren't you or I. Of course. Plus c'est la change. I've lived with this all my life. The narrative never, ever changes. No strike is ever legitimate. All unions are greedy. It's anti-democratic, somehow, even though people vote for it. And people realistically shouldn't be allowed to vote for those things. How dare they mildly inconvenience people like Toby Young or indeed Rupert Lowe? How dare these people be mildly inconvenienced because they're better people than the scum that need to get on with it and do so whilst doffing their cap and looking suitably humble. Do have a lovely day if you can do, and avoid that chaos. Yeah, carnage, one might say. Good grief, awful, isn't it? Yeah.